Zerg, it is Snooter.
And now I actually have to try and remember that his name is supposed to be pronounced Snuta.
It won't work. Like, it'll be the
No, I
same
don't
with
think so.
Soke. You know how it'll go. We've been saying that wrong for 3.5 years, and it's still...
I never even realized there was any question about it. I thought it was just Snoot because
Nope.
I never heard anyone call him anything else.
Apparently not, but there we go. It was... Then again, we had the same problem with Noonie for how long? I mean,
No,
10
he's still
years?
Noni. I don't care what it says. That word says Noni. The English language works in a certain way. Letters make certain sounds.
So what do you think about Idra, then?
It is phonetically supposed to be Idra, the way the letters work. Idra is purely Artos' brain being kind of messed up. Idra, it was always Idra in my head, and I checked phonetically. It's supposed to be pronounced Idra the way it's spelled. And it's just Artosis.
Bloody Artosis, ruining everything as usual.
And we do see a gas coming down from Snoot. That's kind of to be expected. Some players, Scarlet's actually the only one I can think of. Some players will play gasless on here, or at least get up their queens early on and then gas, and just accept that they're not going to have any map control early on. Most Zergs, however, on more aggressive maps like to get out that speed link very quickly and try and deal with anything the Terran's going to do early on. Maybe put some pressure on them. Snoot does seem to be of that school of thought. But like I said, that is much more common on here. And Reaper actually getting in before there's any Zerglings out, doing a little bit of drone harassment, but Snoot, of course, not going to lose a drone.
No, I don't think so. He is taking some damage on the Lings here, but once the Queen's out, this will be effectively shut down. Didn't lose a Ling as well, so really nice control here from Snoot. Happy getting a little impetuous, really wanting to do something with this. Gets a Zergling for his trouble, but now the Queen is out. He does not get the drone, and is going to be driven away.
Oh, he's coming back in. Nope, he's not going to go for it.
Nah.
The drone's up to three shots now.
Yeah, too much for a risk,
Too
I
much
think,
to
in
go
this
for.
situation.
Getting additional queen out as well, getting that creep shred going. That was the one thing Targek had going for him on this map where he played the ZVT. He got destroyed and everything else, but he had pretty nice creep shred. And since it is such a small map, having a lot of creep shred, like, it's pretty easy to actually just take over the map with creep. It doesn't take as long as it does on a bigger map, and you can have everything covered. And you have really, really short rush distances between the bases entirely covered in creep. You can do pretty much whatever you want instantaneously.
Happy's doing the same build.
Yes, he is.
And it's going to get immediately scouted.
And it's much easier to scout it on this map. That's really weird. I don't know. Like I said, Happy is very robotic. He finds something that he thinks works and he does it. But usually that thing is not a very, very aggressive, kind of risky 2-base build. That you can't be predictable in that kind of thing. That's too dangerous.
Well,
He hasn't added any extra add-ons yet. Maybe he's going to change his plan. Nope, there goes the reactor. So yeah,
Apparently
exact
not.
same thing. I guess he believes in this build.
apparently he does. The question is, I suppose, what's Snute's response to that? Because the response for... Well, I guess Target didn't see too much of it. He did get an inkling of it, though. He saw the barracks at the back and is thinking, okay, this seems a little bit fishy. But I wonder what Snute's response to that is actually going to be. The result of Targa's build last time around was a dead Spire, pretty much a dead third.
The way Targa reacted, though, I almost feel like he just didn't notice the second barracks, because you don't make drones the way he made drones if you think you're going to be attacked, and if you see that second barracks, you know you're going to be attacked. It's just, like, that's how Terran builds work. If they have a third CC, then they're not going to have that second barracks. If they don't have a third CC, then they're going to be attacking you before your Spire finishes. So I really don't think he saw it there. It is the exact same build. Starport coming out, so Happy is gearing up for those drops. Those drops will always come before Spire, so if you have good control, you can always try and make something happen with them. But it's such a big investment. Your third base is just so absurdly late. I don't know. I don't know about this. I'm not sure if I like it. But Happy has really good control. Maybe he can just always make things happen.
Yeah, I mean, it seems unlikely that you would consistently kill the Spire with this build.
Yeah, you can't count on that.
No.
Like, it takes Zerg messing up. Zerg is absolutely capable of holding it off. Otherwise, it would just be a broken build that everyone does all the time.
It's also worth noting this is a slightly different version, because previously this Hellion push actually came along with 2 Reapers. But the one Reaper was killed and the second Reaper was never built in the first place, so I think that may have enabled him to possibly get slightly quicker stim, maybe, because he had a little bit extra gas to play with, but he doesn't even have the medevacs yet, so it doesn't actually make that much of a difference.
No. However, he is getting a lot more done with the Hellions Well, not a lot, but he's getting more done with the Hellions than he did against Targa. He was getting quite a few drone kills. The creep spread is not what it was in the previous game. But, yeah, you can already see Snoop preparing for it. He already has 5 Banelings out. He has 14 more Zerglings in production. He absolutely knows he's going to be attacked. It's just a matter of where and how.
Indeed.
He doesn't actually have a lair started yet, so his Spire is not going to be... It's going to be a non-factor. He's just going to have to deal with this on the ground, which gets pretty difficult because it just takes one drop you're not prepared for, and everything starts to snowball. You have to pull all your units back to deal with it because you're out of position, and then the other drop comes in somewhere else.
Although I guess if you want to apply bronze logic, the way to counter this drop is to never build the Spire to be killed in the first place.
And Snoot is actually entirely out of position.
He is. Shockingly enough, which is weird. It seems like Snoot had identified this build, but perhaps not. The Lings are going to be able to shut most of that down, and an entire dropship's worth of Marines die. 17 workers were killed, though. I mean, that was massive.
17 workers and a Spore Crawler, and he got things going.
Oh, he's getting 4 Overlords.
4 Overlords. That's not good, because Snoot's now supply block, and everything about this build is designed to snowball. You just start dropping everywhere at once, because there's no Spire, or you get there before there is a Spire, and in this case, Snoot actually delayed his tech a lot, so his Spire's going to be even later. And if you do some damage, then you start dropping somewhere else, then the ground army has to run to respond to that, you start dropping somewhere else, and so on and so forth. Although Happy actually hasn't sent out a second drop just yet, which is strange. Ah, there it goes. He loads it up, he sends it out to the 3rd base. Snoot has, however, dealt with this much, much better than Targa. He is still absolutely in this game, even though he took more damage than he really needed to.
Yeah, he hasn't lost key tech structures, he certainly hasn't lost his spawning pool yet, so that's nice. Obviously, he didn't have a Spire to lose in the first place, but yeah, he's still holding on quite nicely. He's able to replace those drones without too much of a problem. He has a good link count, a very good link count. He's only got 3 Banelings, but he does have 6 Queens. So his creep spread's going to be great, and his drop defense is going to be solid as well. And Snoot is able to drive that drop away from the 3rd before it does anything.
Yeah, he really does seem to have stabilized the dropping all over everywhere, back and forth thing that I talked about. Is not happening at all here. Happy's barely even going for it. He's just out in the middle trying to clear creep, which is also productive, but it's not going to be as big. Actually, picking off a couple of Queens over on the left side of the map, maybe getting some Banelings as well for his trouble.
Oh, nice. Yeah, he got 2 Queens for that drop. That's absolutely fantastic. The Banes will not do anything, but the Lings are now out on the map, and looks like Happy is going to try and secure a 3rd base, but although with that many Lings and Banelings, it might be a little bit dodgy. That said, we do still have a very late Spire coming out from Snoot. You know, it kicked off at about the 12-minute mark, which is a little bit late, but it does mean that by the time this Spire is done and wants Muta start being produced, he's going to be on 2-2 with Baneling speed against a 1-1 Terran.
And he is, and it's a Terran without... Oh, it's a Terran who almost just lost all of his Marines, and this is very, very weak defense here. And yeah, Snoot kind of just plows through everything.
Yeah, these Widow Mines did not do the job. The Widow Mines get most of the Banelings. So that was a little bit of a unfortunate from Snoot there. If he'd maintained, 6 more Banelings, that would have been great. He's actually going to lose the rest of them by the looks of it. Yeah, there they go. And a bunch of Lings go down to those Widow Mines as well. In the meantime, drop goes down to the 3rd base, doing some damage to the drone line. Looks like they almost took a Queen out, but they didn't. 19 workers killed up to this point here by Happy, which is pretty good, but it's not stopped the economy of the Zerg player from going along quite well, and this 3rd base has been denied mining on the Terran side for quite some time.
It has, but Happy has... Oh, Happy actually has lost 2 full medevacs in a row.
Ouch.
He lost the one that was down behind the natural as well, so in the course of a minute or 2, that's a lot of damage to be taken. Well, Happy has managed to not lose any SCVs. He hadn't started mining at the 3rd base yet when the attack went in, so his economy is not too bad. But he doesn't have very many units, and Snoot is about to make a lot of mutas, I would imagine. Or he has a lot of mutas in production right now.
Yeah.
Along with that existing Ling Bane army.
Going for 11 with +1, which is fantastic. I mean, the upgrades of the Zerg player have been really great up to this point. Terran's still got another minute of not having 2-2, so there might be a window there for the Zerg to actually do something. But overall, the Zerg is just taking good control of the map. He perhaps needs to be thinking about a 4th base.
He really does. If he's not going to be attacking and doing real damage really soon, he needs that 4th base, because their supplies are very, very close. Their worker counts are very, very close. And that's not what you want as Zerg. You need to have an advantage at this point in the game. Happy does not have he doesn't have any bunkers. He doesn't have a whole lot of defense.
Lost most of his Marines to his own Widow Mines there as well, actually, with that run by. Admittedly, Snoot with a little bit of indecision loses more Lings than are necessary, and the mutas are driven back.
That was a really sloppy, weird half attack by Snoot. It was like he just accidentally ran in and then realized that there weren't a whole lot of units and thought maybe he should attack. But then all the reinforcements came and he realized the Widow Mines are Widow Mines. And so he just ended up wasting like half of his slings.
Yep. Snoot loses a couple of mutas in the main base as well, and his entire mineral line. It's kind of brutal. And a big push towards the third base as well is chased away by the Banelings, but 26 workers killed right now. And losing a couple of Mutalisks as well. I mean, even for just the mutas, that drop was probably worth it. As it stands, it's definitely worth it. Fly attacks kicks in, but so far he hasn't really got much done with these mutas.
There's another double medevac attack swinging around into the main as well, as this attack comes into the third base of Happy.
Ooh, Widowmine connections are really, really nice there for Happy. There are more Banelings available, though, and the Mutalisks are now chasing that down. He's using the Banelings to kill off the remaining Widow Mines. That attack now ends for the time being. Here comes the drop again. And they come right on top of that Queen, looking to try and kill it off immediately. Snoot does have a response, but it's a little delayed, resulting in the loss of a Queen right there. In the meantime, Happy's gonna... Oops, sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead. But yeah, I don't know, that was a really, really sloppy attack by Snoot. I'm not sure... It's just so much indecision in all of the attacks he tried to make on Happy's third thus far. And when you play against someone with like the control of Happy, you have to commit to it, because he's just going to pick you apart if he has time to work with it. And that's exactly what happened. Plus the drop in the main, of course, at the same time.
Yeah, Snoot is suffering really badly here. 37 workers killed at this point. The third base taking significant damage. In fact, the third base's mineral line just got gutted. Banelings are finally going to clean up this attack, but... as usual, at what cost? 52 workers to 63. Mine Burrowers on the way, as well as 3-3. And Snoot is really playing subsistence and nothing more right now. He's building units to stay alive, but Happy is just going to keep hammering him here.
And Snoot has no fourth base. He has a hatchery there, but there's zero income at all coming from that, so he can't really play the just survive game. He doesn't have a follow-up. There's no hive. There's no economy. He doesn't have a huge mutaflux.
It's just all died. Yeah, he just burned all his mutas to try and hold that attack and didn't work. So that's the GG. And well, it seems the wisdom of sending up a Zerg against Happy on Polar Knight was not really there. And Happy struggled a little bit more than against Targa there. But frankly, once he got going, it was several rounds of beating that Snoot ended up taking. And you were absolutely right about his attacks as well. When Snoot went for that third, he didn't seem to have a clear plan in mind. And he tried to react at the time, and that resulted in some indecision and a lot of dead units.
Yeah, both the attacks he made into that third base, both the first one, where he like sent some Zerglings in and thought he saw a weakness and then tried to commit and then backed out and then tried to commit again. And then on his one big attack, where he actually had enough Banelings to probably make it through there if he had just attack moved. But I think he saw a Widow Mine or something, and he was worried that there would be a big explosion. And then he tried to back off, but then he realized that the Stim Marines could chase him down, so he tried to re-engage. But by that point, Happy had already established himself and has Marines split. I mean, credit to Happy for really good control there. That's what made the situation so difficult for Snoot to judge correctly. But Snoot really, really messed those attacks up. And interestingly enough, Happy doing that same kind of aggressive build both games in a row. Snoot was, like, he knew it was coming, but he just didn't react to it very well. He had all the units, but he had them out of position. And even though it was literally the exact same thing, Happy just did to Targa. I don't know. Questionable play from Snoot there.
Yeah, that was a little unfortunate. Snoot's sort of run of bad luck at the moment seems to be continuing. And that then leaves your Protoss player, the least known and perhaps the least experienced, as your ace. Which is awkward for Norway, I've got to say.
Yeah, I really, really still dislike it, especially to send Snoot on Polar Knight. I mean, I'd imagine it was his choice, so he knows something that we don't know. But it was just, I don't know why they would do that. Because now you have the inexperienced player as the ace. There's no backup. If he's going to get nervous, like the country, or the nation war is on his shoulders now. There is no backup as there was in the previous game. So there's that to contend with. Plus, he has to win. He has to win everything. He has to go and beat a Zerg player afterwards. We haven't seen his PvZ yet. I don't know. I'm really curious as to why they did that. I think it backfired on them a bit.
I think so. Yeah, I don't really think that went too well for them, and that may very well have cost them the series, because that's a lot to ask of your final Protoss player, Ike, here, to take down not only Happy, but also Slivko.
Definitely. Although, in the previous match, like, no one would have expected to even win 2 games there, regardless of the circumstances. So, maybe he can do it again here?
Possibly.
this is definitely stiffer competition, but I feel pretty comfortable in his ability to beat Happy. I mean, obviously, it's not a guaranteed thing by any means. Nothing is a guaranteed win against someone like Happy.
No.
But I think he's very comfortable with that. I would be more curious to see how the PvZ against Slivko goes, because we haven't seen his PvZ yet, and very greedy Protoss versus third play is a bit more punishable than very greedy Protoss versus Terran play.
Yep.
So I think that might be the big stumbling block for him here.
That's possibly. Well, if he manages to bring his team back from this, then I think he's managed to establish himself quite nicely. I mean, even that 2-kill in the previous matchup was pretty impressive. Here, even more so. Alright, here it is. It's going to be on Frost. This is, of course, potentially the final match here. Russia is one map away from taking it all the way through to the Day 3 semi-finals. And Norway is one map away from dropping down to the losers final, where they will face the winner of Spain and Poland. Poland, of course, a team they've already beaten, and Spain, a team that is looking probably the weakest team. Well, I'm not even going to say probably. They got all killed. Yeah. They're definitely the weakest team in this group. There's no question about that. But can Ike from Team Carnage actually take out both Happy and Slivko? That's a tall order.
I don't know. I believe. I was pretty impressed with those games against Poland. He looked quite good. I think he can do it.
Well, I guess we will find out. I wonder if he'll play exactly the same build, and if he does, whether or not the Russian team has an answer to that.
Yeah, because in the post-game interview, he seemed very, very confident in that build. He just seemed to believe it could beat absolutely anything. So I'm curious if he'll do the exact same thing. Happy's not much of a cheeser. Like that game, we saw him do a more aggressive. Both the previous games, we saw him do more aggressive builds than we would expect from him, but still not cheesy by any means. He wasn't going proxy 2-Rex. He wasn't doing like 2-star Banshee, anything like that. So I don't know. He's not the kind of person who's really just gonna flip a coin and do it all in because he thinks his opponent is going to do a somewhat greedy build. So I think if Ike chooses to do that, he will get away with it again. And then, I don't know, it's very hard for Terran to come back from that kind of situation, no matter what the skill disparity may be. It's such a powerful build if you can get away with it.
That's definitely true. Well, Happy looking really, really solid against Zerg up to this point. Just rock solid in general. In fact, the entire Russian team so far, even though we've only seen 2/3 of it, has looked really good already. Admittedly, I'm looking forward to seeing the Ukraine, who we'll be seeing play tomorrow. They have a really strong lineup in the form of Demarga, Bly, and one other player whose name actually escapes me.
Demarga, Bly. Who was the other one? Was it Cass?
Yes, it was. Who is
who,
funnily enough, like if you said in wings, oh, you've got Demarga, Bly, and Cass, I'd say, whoa, all right, you're winning some. Cass lately has been a little off, unfortunately. Seems like his fortunes have turned the other way. He's been in a bit of a slump lately, but that's not to say he can't bring it in this team series. Absolutely not. He is more than capable of it. He's just not quite the monster that he used to be.
Yeah, I would find no problem in trying, saying that he's like the mana of the team. He was a great player. He's still pretty good, and he's like just experienced enough, and he's been around enough that he's gonna be able to beat anyone. But you can't really consider him like a free 2 or 3 wins as you could in the past.
Yeah, which is unfortunate, but never mind. Right now we have Team Norway on their last legs in this winners match here, and they're relying on the newcomer Ike. He is in the southeast position. He is in the blue trunks playing Protoss, and his team is Carnage Esports versus his opponent to the southwest position on Frost, the captain of the Russian team, who has already got a 2-kill, looking for the all-kill in this match. In the red trunks playing Terran, it is Empire Happy.
We actually get the exact same positions as we did for Ike versus Dystar on the exact same map.
Yep.
So if there's a situation where he's going to do the same build over again, I would say it's probably going to be this. I have to wait and see on that one. And Happy, I haven't seen him play TVP too recently. He was always as Happy will be. He was very, very generic. Just get up his little Bioforce into Medvacs, into Vikings, into Ghosts. Very, very good Ghost control and very, very Ghost heavy play. That tended to be his staple in TVP. But again, I haven't seen him play it for like 6 months or something.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure what to expect from him.
It's going gasless here.
That is interesting and pretty unusual. Reaper CC has been by far the most common TvP opener
Absolutely.
in recent times. Just the scouting information provides is invaluable. Although it's gotten to the point where every Protoss plays greedy at this point, so maybe Happy feels no need to actually scout too thoroughly, and he's just going to go for more economy himself in order to deal with it early on. Could be.
Definitely a possibility. There's the gateway for Ike, so there's the Cybercore directly behind that, but it's what's after the Cybercore that I'm interested in, and whether or not Ike has another build, or whether or not he's going to try and pull out the same one. Happy so far is just sitting on one barracks happily. He will be expanding momentarily, and there's the SCV going to do that. So one rack's gasless expand, which is just a little bit quicker, but it does mean that you're kind of delaying your tech here, which can be a little bit risky.
Yeah, unless he drops a double gas here, which is a possibility if he wants a really quick factory into Starport and whatnot. Will be slightly delayed. There's also the option that he goes for very bio-heavy play. I have seen him do things like that. 3 racks timings, actually very similar to what Dystar did in his TVP. And we do see another barracks coming down here. No gas star just yet. Maybe very marine heavy play. Maybe he's just going to put double gas down a little bit later, head up into the tech labs and whatnot from there. And back at home, Ike putting down a very, very quick Nexus. I believe this is the same way he opened up. I think that was Gateway Nexus in the previous game, or in his previous PBT.
There's another barracks going down here for Happy. Still no... the gas is taken on 23, which is some of the latest gas I've seen for Terran in this matchup in a while.
And he is dropping the double gas, so he will be able to tech up afterwards. Just slightly delayed, going to get a lot of Marines out early on. That's something that's pretty common. Well, that kind of thing, just you get a lot of Marines out, you go poke, you maybe do some damage if you can, maybe get a unit pick off if you're really lucky, force out the Nexus cannon, and then just retreat. Maybe go in for a secondary attack after that if you're really feeling cheeky. See if Happy goes for something like that. He likes to be very active and aggressive. He has very good control, very good multitasking, so it really behooves him to be very active on the map. He tends to exploit that. So I would not be surprised at all if he moves out for a little Marine poke. But what his follow-up is going to be, we don't really know.
Looks like the same build from Ike, though. Into that Robo.
It served him very well. You can't really blame him for going back to it, especially on a big map like this. Sorry, that's my cat.
I was going to say, are you okay over there? Do you need me to send help?
No. She likes messing with a little door stopper thingy. Makes noise. She's an obnoxious little cat.
Stalker out in the field is going to keep an eye on things. Just poke into the natural. It will, of course, see a bunker. Forge coming down here as well for Ike, which does get scanned. But it's still no more gateway, so we may very well see that exact same build from Ike. He seemed very confident with it. Warp gate's about to finish. Factory is coming up here for Happy. And these barracks, funnily enough, have not been that active. They have sort of been sitting around, occasionally building a few Marines here and there, but they don't have add-ons on them.
That's interesting, because I think if we had actually committed to Marine production and gone for a very, very quick timing attack, that could be the one weakness of Ike's build here, because he does sit on like 2 Stalkers and a Sentry. And even with the Planetary Nexus, maybe if you attack early enough, with the Colossus is nowhere near done, you poke in, you force out the Planetary Nexus, then you have a follow-up attack before he gets big. But Happy's not dedicating to unit production at all. He's not going to go for that. He's just headed up to the starport. And there comes the Robo Bay, so it is the exact same build.
Yep.
Happy just scanned,
though.
Yeah, he just scanned the main of Ike. He saw everything except the Forge, I believe. But he should have a general idea of what's going on. But that's not too big of a deal. The thing Ike is doing is, if it's risky in any way, it's that it's greedy, and there's no way that Happy can punish that. So knowing what's happening isn't really too big of a deal here.
Yeah, he pretty much got away with it, and he even gets away with that Stalker, which is nice. Takes a lot of damage on it, but he got away with it. The Twilight counter follow-up as well. Again, you know, we've seen this same build before in this same map in this exact same situation. Ridiculously greedy tech, taking the gateways only at the last minute, sitting on bare minimum units. Literally 4 units. And funnily enough, Happy seems to have even less of a chance of doing anything to that. But he wants to play more standard against this. He wants to get his starport out a bit earlier. He doesn't want to use all of his units in an attack.
The thing is, Dystar was playing very aggressively, and that meant that he had to invest a lot into that aggression, whereas Happy has spent relatively little money on units. He's getting his tech up much faster. He almost has his starport completed. The first Colossus is about to complete, so that's still not ideal timing. but he is getting his tech up much faster. He has much better upgrades and much more economy to work with. So it's not going to be as hard for him to fight going into the mid game. The other big thing to keep in mind is Ike's army control was not perfect, whereas Happy has very, very good army control. So if you give Happy a reasonably close game, a reasonably, like, not too big of a disadvantage, he can actually make something happen with it. Whereas Dystar just kind of attacked, and he was so far behind it didn't matter anyway.
Yeah.
So there is that. But it's definitely not as good of a situation for Ike as it was. He's not getting to take his third base for free right now, as he did in that previous game. He's having to go blink first and add an additional 3 gateways. So his economy is not going to be nearly what it was. Just generally speaking, it's a much better situation for Happy than it was for Dystar. It's still not at all bad for Ike.
Yeah, and in fact, Happy is just sort of rolling around, taking a little bit of control. The Colossus at the front. Oh, and a nice little evacuate there by Happy. So quick pickup and go. Couple of force fields forced out of Ike, which actually does make a difference because this build only has 2 sentries in it initially. So that's actually a lot of energy that got forced out right there.
Actually, in the late game battles, I remember him having 2 sentries in the previous game as well. That might be the only sentries he makes. Because he gets blinked so fast, he kind of uses that for positioning instead of the force fields.
Yeah.
And then he has, he'd rather just make a bunch of units than try and use force fields. So
yeah, and he just flat out can't afford the sentries. I mean, on 2 bases with 4 gas and Colossus and all those upgrades. And now Happy's going to go and attempt to drop, which Ike looks like he's relatively prepared for. He's going to be a little bit careful, though. The Stalker's out the front. One goes down for free. Nexus Cannon has been forced out there, and will be able to drive this drop away. Colossus now coming back. It doesn't mean, of course, that Ike can't be aggressive, so the drops are pinning him there, but he's not. Ike's also not taking any economic damage from this.
Yeah, he lost only a single Stalker for that, but of course it didn't cost Happy anything, so no reason not to do it for the meantime. Cost him maybe a couple of Marines. And Ike still has not taken a third, and he's sitting in, I believe, 7 gateways now, so he, actually no, there he goes to drop the third base. But there was the potential for a 2-base Colossus all in here, or there. But with that third Nexus, it does look like he's just playing a safer game. Which is really smart. It's very reactive play from him. He realizes that his opponent isn't as far behind, so he's playing a little bit more conservatively. He's not trying to take that early third base like he did against Dystar. And Happy is actually gearing up for a big timing attack here.
Yeah.
This is kind of scary looking. I don't think he can defend that third Nexus. Yeah, he needs to get up the ramp.
Yeah. Alright, well, Stalker's at the front, and here comes the fight. The Colossus at the front is taken out immediately as the Viking count is very, very high, and I think this does expose a little bit of a weakness in this build, that there just aren't all that many units in it. There's way too many Marauders. Those Stalkers don't stand a chance. And 1 Colossus goes down. There's still 2 up. The third base obviously will be cancelled here.
Yeah, that was quite a mistake to fight down the ramp there. Just fundamentally, you have a Nexus that's not even half finished, and you have an SCV pull timing attack coming out from the Terran. There's no reason to fight that on the low ground. There's no reason to fight that on anything except extremely defensive position. But this follow-up attack from Heavy is not going to work at all. If he keeps trying to go in there, he's just going to lose all his units.
That's absolutely true. Down goes the infamous Scouting Factory, and Ike didn't lose a huge amount in that fight. He lost some Stalkers and a Colossus. And he did kill quite a lot in the process. The resources lost is actually almost about as even as you could possibly expect it to be at this point. But Happy's definitely in a hell of a better position than Dystar was. He is still on 2 bases, though.
2 bases, and he doesn't have very many medevacs, so he doesn't have a whole lot of sustainability to his army, and which is mostly red, orange, yellow health. So he's not going to be able to attack again anytime soon. Ike right now should actually just go immediately drop a third Nexus. It looks like he is prepared to do that with that probe out there. Because his standing army would just absolutely destroy Happy's standing army now. There's still a good amount of Vikings, but the ground army from Ike off of those 7 gateways, off of those upgrades, with Charge Lot on the way, that's getting pretty superior, and the lack of medevacs is going to start hurting Happy a lot.
I certainly think you are right. They're still making Vikings, actually. He's going to go up to 10 here, and it would perhaps behoove Ike to think about a tech switch at this point with that many, but he's still building Colossus. He's going to go up to 5.
He did just drop a Templar Archives. 5 Colossus, I don't know, might be a bit too much. I agree with you. I think a switch into Zealot Templar Archon would be absolutely fantastic right now if you could get to it before he would get attacked. But Happy, no third command center yet. It's looking like he really wants to attack. So making a tech switch or committing to it too early could be pretty dangerous, especially as he's taking that third Nexus. But there's just so many Vikings. He's going to have really, really good Stalker positioning and be very, very careful with Colossus.
And that's going to be very difficult to do with 18 Marauders on the field.
That it is. But the big thing is, he did only lose that 1 Colossus in the previous engagement, so he still has quite a few of them. relative to what the Terran can afford to have.
Still building
here comes out. Here comes out the second, or here comes the second attack out of Happy, and this is a big SCV pull. He's only leaving behind like 10, 15. So this is pretty much an all-in. Once again, I think Ike should just abandon the third base and defend up the ramp, because that's such a good defense.